Howdy, folks, and welcome to another day in the Milky Way. And tonight we got a great show with my co-host, David Null, Hawkeye Two Feathers. Thank you for being here.
And you're welcome for being here. And I appreciate everybody always showing up on a Tuesday evening. And thank you. And we greetings and blessings to all y'all out there. And we hope you're doing as best as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Hope you didn't. They're probably all snacking on candy left over from Halloween, bouncing around the room. You know what I heard this year is that I heard from a friend that said that the little kids don't prefer chocolate candy anymore as much as the things like Skittles and tarts and things like that. What do you say to that?
Have they had too much chocolate?
I don't know. I myself, I can't get enough chocolate. I love chocolate, but the kids apparently would rather have a bag of Skittles or some Laffy Taffy than a candy bar, or a chocolate almond joy or whatever they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Kind of weird. But hey, sign of the times, right?
Yep.
All right. Well, and tonight I am going to be doing. We got some. Oh well. First off, we're going to talk about. We got some stories. How many stories you got for us tonight?
We got two of them tonight. The first one is called Bird Medicine.
Bird medicine.
And what is the second one called?
Bird
I'll
medicine.
get to
Hagaween and his 10 sons.
Hagaween and his 10 sons.
Yeah.
Wild geese, Flint.
That's right.
Yeah, so there's a blue snake, whirlwind.
Yeah, there we go. Lucky Stone said it all.
Spider, meteor, snake, flea, turtle, eagle, and black snake.
There's always something to learn from the animals. That's for sure. Hey, you want to know something really interesting? I was watching this video and the guy was talking about a science experiment. How they put 1,000 fleas in a jar. Now, fleas can jump, 3-4 feet high, right? But they put the lid on the jar and kept them fleas in that jar. After a few days, they took the lid off the jar, but none of the fleas would jump out of the jar. They were so conditioned to staying in that jar. Well, the little fleas grew healthy and had babies, but none of the babies jumped out of that jar either, because they were told by their parents that they can't jump any higher than the top of that jar. So, with that thought in mind, we learn, most of the stuff we know is a learned response. And our history is learned. We got to do the best we can to learn outside of the box. Because just like those fleas, we can be so much more than we are. We can jump out of that jar anytime. We just don't know that we can. And I guess that's the moral of that story. So with that, I hope you learned a little bit of something. If not,
we can jump higher if the lid's off.
That's right. But nobody takes the time to learn how to jump higher. And your parents have told you you can't jump past that lid. But really, the thing is you can. You just limit yourself because you were told that you had to. Like I said, most of the stuff we do is a learned response, a learned, conditioned thing. You know what I mean?
Yep.
So with that, I'm going to be talking about the Pequots tonight. That's right down Lucky Stone's area. Let's see. And Chloe's in the house. And Michelle can hand free. She is listening and walking home. Of course, we got Susie Q, who came to say hello to all you awesome people. So thank you, thank you, thank you so much. Lucky Stone says we're live. And Travis Reed Culp says Breaker 19. I'll get call back. Oh, that's from that Rubber Duck song, you know. Breaker 19 for the Rubber Duck. We got a convoy. And with that convoy, let's start in with the Pequots. I got this cool old book. It's really old. And it's got even really old writing in there. If you can see that. How come when I do that, it disappears? But anyway, it's got some old writing from 1843 in the front of the book, which is pretty cool. So I don't say so myself. But this is a book from 1841. It's called The Events in Indian History, the Origin of the American Indians and Early Settlements in North America. So first, I would say to myself, this is as close to firsthand events as you're probably going to get back in the day, because they were recording as much as they could, and our history seems to change all the time, or it has changed. It seems like since 1900, our history has changed a lot. What they put in the history books has become like a standard. I don't know. Do you agree with that? Or have you read many of the old books or whatever?
Well, I have back in the day, not recently.
Well,
but what did you say about the standards?
Well, I mean, like, I've read history books, say, starting around 1900 and going up. And they all seem as if you could rewrite that story over and over and over in every book. Copy and paste, copy and paste, copy and paste.
Yeah.
But when I get these old books like this, the story is more elaborate. It points out lots of things that you wouldn't normally hear. It'd be, oh yeah, there was a Pequot War, blah, blah, blah. And I'm going to go through some of that. Okay. So, I'm going to, of course, I always got to present a bunch of stuff. There's Elderberry. Elderberry says, what's up? Robert B. Anyway. Okay, I gotta shrink this, and I gotta present that, and we will be on our way. Where did it go, though? I just had it here a second ago. Oh, there it is. It took a little while. Computer's being a little bit slow. Okay, I'm gonna progress way over to here to the Pequot War, and this is what they kind of say. This is the way that modern day people talk about things. And it talks about Pequot War. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. It says shortly after the epidemic killed most of the Pequot tribe, the English colonization of the Pequot lands moved a frantic pace and eventually resulted in a small-scale conflicts and attacks coordinated by both the Indians and the English settlers at Fort Saybrook that escalated into the Pequot War as other local tribes, such as the Nagasets, the Mohegans, made alliances with the English. The Pequots lashed out. Pequot warriors who had previously attacked a group of Mattabescuits Indians who had tried to trade with the colonists had begun killing English settlers who ventured outside of their stronghold at Fort Saybrook. Connecticut colonial leaders, together with the Nagaset allies, soon devastated devised a strategy to combat the Pequots and massacred the largest Pequot village in Mississauga, burning it to the ground and killing almost 700 Pequots, most of whom were women and children. The grisly scene became known throughout history as the massacre at Mystic. 180 Pequot warriors were subsequently killed, and they were found hiding in a swamp near Fairfield. Many were captured and sold as slaves. The Pequots never recovered from the war and were virtually annihilated. So, as you can see, the Pequots lived here in Connecticut and Massachusetts area. Okay, but that see how that summary goes? That's new history, right?
And what year was that again?
What do you mean?
When they did that, when that happened?
This was back in the 1600s, like
Right. Okay.
1636 to 1638.
Okay.
Okay, so I am gonna tell you that, that sounds all good and happy, right? Hey, I could have just dropped it right there, but we're not gonna drop it right there. We're gonna go back and see what was really going on. Okay, so back in the day, there was the Pequots. They had a leader, and his name, oh gosh, I wrote it down here. The fact that Connecticut, and he was a nephew, administered the government he led it in harmony as well as in union. And it started with this Roger Williams. Okay, Roger Williams. This is kind of weird how it starts out, but the Pequots were still a friendly group, and they had a leader, a great leader. His name was, I lost the name of him. But anyway, they had a great leader, but he was old, and this guy named Roger Williams. He was with the Puritans, of course. The Puritans, but he didn't believe. It all boils down to religion, people. He didn't quite believe and have the same religious things as all the rest. He was outside of the lines. Okay, and I'm gonna get a picture up here so that we can all see some of these things. Oh shoot, I got it. But anyway, okay, talk amongst yourselves for a second. I gotta find a new picture to get with these people and find this area here. Okay, and align it there. There we go. I'll go with that one. How about that? Bang. A lot of clicking there. A lot of clicking. Okay. So you can see where the Pequots were. Here's the Nagasets. Remember, the Pilgrims were in this area right here, right on the border. Let's just say as a border. Now, what happened is Roger Williams didn't quite believe in all that stuff, and he was told. He was told, because everybody was living in harmony, and but he is clearly, by some of his letters, they know that in 1634, and he was a revered gentleman, but he was compelled to leave Massachusetts colony. Now remember, if you're leaving the colony, where are you going? You're going into no man's land with the Indians, right? And he fled the Seanook, and he went to a place within the limits of Plymouth jurisdiction. And the people of that colony, being unwilling to embroil themselves with the Massachusetts governor Winslow, informed him of the difficulty, which was apprehended and advised him to occupy a spot on the other side of the river without the boundaries of either jurisdiction. Now we're not talking a long ways. Well, in them days I guess it would be a long ways, but just probably up the river, not where any of us are settled. You can't be here. This is what these pilgrims that we think are so great said. We don't want you. Get out. Can you believe that?
Yep.
Even though it refers to him as a revered gentleman. And they kicked him out of Massachusetts colony, kicked him out of the other colonies. And here's where things went. Mr. Williams, utterly forlorn, crossed the river and threw himself on the mercy of Kananakas. And Kananakas, he was the leader of the Pequots. Well, one of them anyway. The savage chieftain, to his eternal praise be it recorded, received him with a hospitality worthy of an emperor. At first, indeed, he was suspicious of his visitor's motives, and he was none of the more possessed in his favor from the subjects having recently suffered extensively from a formidable epidemic. So at this point, the epidemic had went through, and this was all in early 1622, about 15 years or so before the big war. Anyway, their threats of hospitality were so open that the English were receiving constant intelligence of their design from the Indians of their own alliance, and not long after, Kananakas sent a herald to Plymouth, who left a bundle. The Pequots were going to do war with the English, right? So Kananakas sent a herald to Plymouth, who left a bundle of arrows enclosed in a rattlesnake skin, the customary challenge to war. The governor dispatched a messenger in return, bearing the same kind of skin stuffed with gunpowder and bullets, assuring the chieftain also if he had any shipping, instead of troubling him, to come so far as Plymouth to gratify his wish for fighting. Can you imagine that? Okay, so this Roger Williams plays a good part in this. Now, we all know in 1632, the Sketchum made an attack, which is the chief, on the Massasoit, who fled for the refuge. That was the Nagasetts. Massasoit was a chieftain, refuge with the English. Because the Pequots were very warlike. They were destroying all the other tribes around them, warring with everybody. They were doing their thing. Captain Standish, Miles Standish, of course, took special interest in this case, and he tried to make a peace between the Nagasetts and the Pequots. So these enemies, Kananakas and Mimitunkamo, I hope I'm pronouncing it, Miminomompano, concluded a peace and engaged them with many other tribes as possible in a common cause against the colonists. So these two groups, they were trying to stir up start this war. And of course, just like any war, if you're going to fight somebody, you want as many people on your side as you could, but it was hard to get people. The English trying to unite these people all together, and they used the friendship of Roger Williams and the influence. He was enabled to exercise and probably turn the scale from Minamoko, informed him that the Pequot application. Mr. Williams forwarded the news immediately to the governor of Boston, and kind of got cautious by the same messenger. Okay, so he was trying to broker a peace. And this is how he brokered the peace. And it was just like seven, they made it really simple, not like today. Number one, firm peace between the Massachusetts colony and other English plantations and their Confederates. Two, neither party to make peace with the Pequots without consultation with the other. Three, not to harbor the Pequots. Four, to put death or deliver other murderers and other fugitives servants. Five, the English to notify them when they marched against the Pequots and they to send guides. Six, free trade between the two nations. Seven, none of them to visit the English settlements during the war with the Pequots without some Englishman or known Indian to accompany. Go figure, huh? So, let's go with the Pequots. This is where it goes from there. The Pequots, or the Pequoids with a D, inhabited the part of southern coast of New England, which is now comprehended within the limits of Connecticut. They are said to have been originally an inland tribe and to have gained possession of their mere by force of arms, the fine territory which is occupied to this date of their first acquaintance with the English. The Nagasets alone of the neighboring tribes had been able to oppose them with success. So, they were becoming very powerful. Here's the first sketchum, which is the first chief of the Pequots known to the English, was Picota. Yeah, Picota. But he died. He was old. Then we got a new character that came around. One we haven't heard of. And this was a Massachusetts sycamore, and one called a Jack Straw. Now, Jack Straw was an Indian who had formerly lived with Sir Walter Raleigh in England. And he made an application to have an alliance with the Massachusetts governor against the Picota. He gave a glowing deception of his native land and promised if some of the English would go there and settle, that he would supply them with corn and pay them 80 beaver skins yearly. Everybody's in it for something, isn't it? The successor of Picota and the last, as well as the first great sketchum of the tribe, known personally to the whites, was Secacus, a warrior of high renown, who, when the English commenced their settlements in Connecticut soon after the transaction last mentioned, had no fewer than 26 sketchums, which is other chiefs under him, or war captains under his domain, and could muster the small calculations of 700 bowmen. Now, that's quite a. They had a fortress. This is where it gets really interesting. So the Pequots had a fortress, and in a really beautiful place, and they called the town of Groton, and commanding one of the best prospects of the Sound and adjacent country. Yeah, it was near the Mystic River, eastward of the Mystic River, and finally, they had a bunch of land south and southeast. Remember, all of these places. Yes, I think he said there was. Yes, that's right, Scotty boy. There's a Pequot Sound too. Anyhow, the point is the Pequots had settled in this most beautiful territory. They picked the best spots, and they commanded the river. As you can kind of see here in this picture, that's where the English were settling. They dammed up these rivers. The English did. I got a picture of that. So let's see. Here we go. This is the Mystic River here. Yeah. Mystic River in Connecticut. And as you can see, beautiful rolling hills. But where do all the white people, the English, settle? Right along the river, because that's where the boats go in and out and up and down the river to do all the trading. But now, if you were an Indian, where would you go with your canoe? Would you be paddling up and down the river, going out into the ocean down here? No, you're cut off. They're cutting you off. They ain't gonna allow Indians with paddle boats to come up and down this river, are they? That's gonna be a big no-no.
Not without a tariff.
That's right. People would be terrified seeing these Indians, especially in these boats that they had. You know, I got a picture of a boat. Look at this boat. Oh, I got this one. Look at that boat. Now, ain't that quite the cool boat? All decked out, and they even got a sail on that boat, that canoe. But can you imagine a whole tribe of Indians coming up and down the river in this thing? People would be terrified. You know what I'm saying? They would be terrified.
But that's not what I meant.
What do you mean?
I said they would go up and down the river by a tariff.
Oh, yeah, get charged for it.
A tax, yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
I mean,
and if you were being taxed, I'd be terrified. So I didn't know whether you were doing a play on words or whatever, but I was like.
Now here's their fort. This is the Saybrook Fort that the English had built, and this would have been the fort that the Indians would have built. I mean, I'm sure this is Brothertown, Indian parent tribe. But you can kind of get the idea what the Indians were doing here. They kind of did the same. They had the same idea. Only the English built a fort more worthy of stature. When you start looking at it. I mean, look at that. This compared to that is big difference, isn't it?
Yeah, the Indians put a fence up and the other guys put a wall up.
Yes. Now this could have been thicker, but I think the idea is with this is you're keeping people from running through your village, but you're being able to shoot your arrows out of the village too. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
Because you got arrows, not guns. And so that's my thoughts on that. Well, what happens is the Pequots, they with under Picota, they were friendly, but then Secacus, yeah, he didn't like the English. He hated the English. They were stealing his land. He was mad. He was trying to, he'd already frightened a lot of people. They were living on the Mystic River, and as you could see, the English had started building on the Mystic River. They put up some forts, basically coming onto his land that he worked so hard and did so many battles to keep. He really didn't want. He stood for wanting to keep the Indian. You know what I mean? Putting it simply. He viewed. Okay, here's a little spot of it. They viewed the English especially as not only strangers, but mere intruders without right or penance or pretense of right to the country, who had nevertheless taken the liberty to even make settlements and build forts in their own neighborhood without asking their consent, and even to restore the Indian kings whom they have subjugated to their former lands and authority. Under these circumstances, it is no matter the wonder that the whites had scarcely located themselves within the bounds of Connecticut when that great spirited warlike nation, the Pequots, began to murder and plunder them, to wound and kill their cattle. I mean, you see what I'm saying? So the old time book really tells you what was going on there. It wasn't just merely, hey, the Pequots killed some people, and so the English went out there and had a war with them. No, they were moving in on their land that they worked so hard to get. They didn't want the English there. The English just came right in and put up a fort and built some houses and said, this is ours now. And of course, what did they do? Hey, we're going to kill some of your cattle. We're going to burn down some of your places and make war with you. But the big one was in 1633, where it really started with the Pequots, was Captain Stone on a voyage to Maine to Virginia, put to the mouth of the Connecticut River, and there was murdered by the natives with his crew, all of his crew. 3 of them, who were sent to shore to kill fowl, birds, because I suppose they were hungry, were the first surprised and attacked and killed. A chief of some of the men then came aboard and stayed with the Captain Stone, in his cabin until he later fell asleep. And then he was knocked in the head, and his crew, being at the time in the cook's room, meaning the galley, the Indians took such guns as they found, and they fell upon and charged them. And at that moment, some of the Indians, being stupid, they set off the gunpowder aboard the vessel. I'm ad-libbing a little bit to make this so we can all follow along. So at that moment, the gunpowder exploded and accidentally exploded and blew up the ship. The deck was blown up, and most of the Indians escaping returned to complete the massacre and burn the wreck. But the Pequots had a different story to tell than what the survivors of the ship said. The chiefs and the messengers that were sent there delivered a different story, saying that the captain caught some of their men, enslaved them, put them in chains, and that the Indians were just trying to rescue their comrades, and bad things happen. So that's kind of what started it all. So they were just known to be bad Indians. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Okay. So anyway, later on during this spot, just like always, what was it? They were trying to get rid of the Pequots. The English were even trying to buy off other Indians, believe it or not. And in a passage of a journal illustrates the spirit of Secaucus and his subjects. The Nagasets were privately told by the governor that if they should happen to make peace with the Pequots, that they should receive a goodly proportion of the wampum. The wampum, yeah. But that didn't work out. The matter remains until 1636. During the season, the Englishmen who'd been trading there in Connecticut, one of them was murdered by a party of Block Island Indians. Probably not even the Pequots, but Block Island Indians, several of whom are said to have taken refuge among the Pequots. So even though the Pequots may have not started it, the people that they took in may have been the people that were bad. But none of the English decided to go and find out. They just went there to the Pequot. A bunch of men were gathered. They got in boats and they sailed to the area where the Pequots were. And I do have a picture of this sailing. So they sail. Oh, here we go. I got to get rid of that one, and I got to put this one. So they sailed up to the shore. The Pequots came out. It probably wasn't quite like this. According to what it says, is they sat there. They tried to make peace. The Pequots didn't want to make peace. They didn't want to battle, but they said they were ready for a battle. The English, so what happened is the English got out there, and two of their own number were killed and several more wounded, and then the English then marched up to their village. So now that the fight was on, they couldn't make peace. Two of their men were killed, some were injured. They went up to the village, and then they burned it all the wigwams, the mats, all night. Did this all night. They returned to their vessels, and then the next day went ashore on the west side of the river and burnt all the wigwams and spoils, their canoes in their quarters, and so set sail and came to Nagaset country. There they landed their men on the 14th of September. They came all safe to Boston, and then was a marvelous providence. Okay, so basically, the Pequot's losses were unknown, and only one of the English there were wounded, etc., etc. And the next battle. So basically, the Indians were just getting wiped out. How would you like it if one guy in your village went rogue and he did something bad, and then the authorities came in and burned every house in town because of that one guy? That's kind of what it boils down to. It says 3 persons were next killed in Connecticut River, on the Connecticut River, and 9 in Wethersfield. No boat could pass up and down the river without being safe. The roads and the fields were everywhere beset. The settlers could neither hunt nor fish nor cultivate the land nor travel at home or abroad, but at peril of life. And so the people were scared. Remember how I was saying when the Indians go up and down the river in their boats, people would get scared? Yeah.
Yep.
They were scared. This is the picture I should have showed. This is the one I should have showed, where they're watching on shore as the boats are coming across. I have too many pictures up. But anyway, the point is, the English went in there like a wildfire and just, shot and killed. They didn't take a break. Can you imagine a garrison like this coming up with all their guns, and you got bow and arrow, and you're half naked and you're trying to defend yourself? Of course, you just you're not going to be doing too much. That picture. Like I said, it's a sad day.
Really?
Yeah, because look at they went in there and they killed women and children and the whole 9 yards. When they got their troop together, okay, so what happened was the English gathered all the enemies of the Pequot together to help them, and they went to their fort, that wherever that fort was, and they surrounded the fort. And this is a picture of what how many you see the bow and arrow guys all around. How many guys they had to protect their fort would be, like something like that. But they went in there, they gathered all of them, and here's where it went. The extent of violence. Oh boy, this gets gory, people. Nothing but the army could satisfy them for their own station. And this was on an evening. The English approached the fortress about a daylight, and then they halted at the foot of a large hill. And then they sent word for allies to come up. But after a long time, Uticas and the Waukesha alone made some appearance. Where is the fort? Inquired Mason. On top of the hill, answered they. And so the Indians kind of pointed in the right direction. And the Utica said they were behind and they were afraid. None of the other Indians wanted to battle the Pequots, so the English went down there alone. And the only Indians that killed any other Indians were the ones that were escaping from the fort. So they just kind of sat out in the background. The resistance was mainly and desperate, but the whole work of destruction was complete in little more than an hour. The extent of violence of the confrontation kindled by the assailants and the reflection and the roar of arms and the shrieks and yelling of women and men and children. Let's see if we got a picture of this. Yes. Women, men, you got to figure. Here's these Puritan people out there killing the Indians like, crazy like. So I got a better picture of this. No, that ain't the one. Got a better picture of this war. Yeah. Anyway, okay. Maybe it's this one. Anyway, yeah. Oh, I mean it's the same one. Still a little bit different. Anyway, so they're fighting. The reflection of arms, the shrieks, the yelling of men and women and children within the and out the shouts of the Allies. Without most 70 wigwams were burnt, and 500 or 600 Pequots were killed, parent and child alike. The old people and the squaws, the gray-haired men and the babies were burned on the promiscuous ruin. But Mason, the leader of this whole thing, intention was to fall upon both the principal forts, though there was 2 forts actually, of the enemy at once, and finding it impossible, he says, we were much grieved, chiefly because the greatest of the bloodiest chiefs there resided, whose name was Saxicus. That's the guy they were trying to get. The execution of his design would have saved him much subsequent loss and labor. The great warrior was little discouraged by the horrible havoc already having among his subjects, and immediately on receiving the intelligence he dispatched, perhaps led on in person reinforcements of 300 warriors who pursued the English very close at a distance of 6 miles on their march towards the Pequot harbor. But the reception, which was boldly met with the English, drove them into desperation. The whole remaining force of the nation repaired to the stronghold of Saxicus and vented all their complaints and grievances upon his head. In their fury, they even threatened to destroy him and his family, and perhaps nothing but the entreaties of his chief counselors, who altered to him in his misfortunes, prevented him from being massacred by his own subjects in his own fort. A large number deserted him, as it was, and took refuge among the Indians of New York. The fort was then destroyed, and Saxicus himself, with 70 or 80 of his best men, retreated towards the Hudson River. So there was no, nothing to go out and capture him, because they burnt both the forts and they killed almost all the Indians, and the rest of the Indians that were left retreated north to New York and up to the Hudson River. Oh, I gotta get rid of that one. So, like I said, there was, but that was pretty much the end of it. The Indians were done. But Saxicus was still out there. The English put a bounty on his head, sent many a people to go kill him, and nobody did. Eventually, he was killed later on, but they scalped him and brought his hair to the English in Boston. The Sketchum was one of the last obligated to abandon his country, taking with him 500 pounds of wampum. They paid the guy that killed him. It was one of the Nagasat enemies. So they gave this guy who killed him 500 pounds of wampum, and attended by several of his best war captains. And they left, and he went to live with the Mohawks, who realized that he was a traitor, and they killed him too. because who wants to have a traitor in your village, right?
Yep.
Well, after all of that, we come to the end, and this is the bad part. This is how I realized the English, work things. And, even in this day and age, our society works really, really slow. And justice does not come fast, right? So here, later on, after all of this was done, they were having meetings about this, and they realized that the guy that was killed in the boat, that Captain Standish, went and checked into this. Remember, I was talking about Miles Standish checked into this, found out that the captain was being prosecuted for piracy, and he was charged in the infamous crime. And though appeared he was been drinking, and that during all of this, so all the things that the Indians said may have been true. That he had, says here, he's incidentally a character stone. He was being charged as a pirate. He was stealing corn and salt, and et cetera, et cetera. Okay, then as to the next proceeding, this is where it gets good. Recorded that the expedition of the English in 1635, we had only to remark. Now, this was the one where they went up to the village and they burnt everything, and the Indians attacked them on the shore as they unloaded off their boats and stuff. You remember seeing that picture? They demanded that 1,000 fathoms of wampum with no justifiable or no alleged reason for it, and the imposition of an assault. The English should at least have taken time to see if Zacchaeus himself, his subjects, having no more authority than disposition to threat without him. The English, who, with no apparent provocation, not only insulted, but assaulted the Pequots, merely to see if they would show fight. And then they burnt their towns and their boats, not a hair of their own heads being meanwhile injured, and the Sechums himself being still absent. So Zacchaeus wasn't even there, and yet they burnt the towns, killed the people, did all of that stuff. It says here, with such inducement, the chieftain began a war of extermination, and then indeed it became necessary that one of the two nations at issue should be completely disabled. No civilized reader entertains a doubt as to the result which, under such alternative, was most to be desired, but he may nevertheless have an opinion respecting his mortal prosperity as well as his state policy and measures the brought upon the horrible necessity, meaning that because they were attacked, of course they're going to fight back, even if they weren't the guilties. It says, let the whole truth then be exposed. If it all shall be found, we believe it must be, that under the influence of strong and sincere, through fatal excitement, a rashness of civilized party was the ultimate cause of the ruin of the savage. Let the injustice be acknowledged, though it should not be without shame and tears. Let it be atoned for, as far as it may be, in the only way now possible, by the candid judgment of prosperity and history upon the merits of the misfortune of both. And that's the story. So basically, they went into the village looking for that guy, and to see about the killing of the captain and the people and all of this stuff. Started a war by burning the villages. That's the English. And killing their people and the whole 9 yards and all their supplies and everything. and never asking, hey, who here did anything? You know what I mean?
Yep.
And then later on, see, many years later, they go, see, this is the slow English system. Well, they should have really thought this out a little bit better. I think they attacked when they should have been asking questions. So, 600-700 people got killed, and we wiped that tribe off the map. We made a mistake, and, let history show that we made a mistake. There you go. Slate wiped clean.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, exactly. It's over. They're all dead now.
What you gonna do?
Yeah, it's really sad. I mean, it is sad. They just, because the Indians would go and, they're mad because you're taking our best land where we live. I mean, it'd be like you living where you're at, and then all of a sudden some neighbor comes over and says, this would be a nice place for a house. I'm just going to bulldoze yours down and I'll build my house right here. Yeah, what are you going to do?
Put up my fist.
Yeah.
Which is what the natives did.
Yeah. He's going to say, but I got a bulldozer. And you'll say, well, fine. I'll take you to court. I'll sue you. And the guy goes, well, go ahead and sue me, because by the time my house is all built, I'll be living in it. By the time you even get started, and you'll be dead and gone before, and I'll be living in my house nice and cozy, warm. Tough luck, buddy. And if you fight back, I'll call the cops, kind of thing. And I'll have you hauled away. And this is exactly what happened. So anyway, that's my story. And, what do you think of it all? I want your opinion on this.
Oh, it was nasty back in the day. And you'd get a few guys, and those damned Indians, and we got to get them before they get us. And, so it was almost like one of them old movies where you see a couple of guys rile up the whole town, and the next thing they want to lynch some guy,
Yeah.
And there was later on, gotta say it was most of the time it was the white man, but later on it happened with the early days of the KKK in the South. Well, it wasn't just the South. The KKK was in North and also in Ohio, of all places. So, it was the people who thought that they were better than the rest, for whatever reason,
Mm-hmm. Oh, yeah.
And it was the white man, the British against the red man, and it was the white man against the against the black man and the slaves and so forth. So
Yeah, exactly. Each society would come in and want to take their chunk of whatever is supposed to be theirs, or what they would claim to be theirs. The first settlers, the Puritans, and the other one, all those ones, those religious groups that got sent over here. They were supposed to be Mr. Goody Two Shoes and everything, but those pilgrims and stuff they could get really hostile. You know what I mean? Even to their own group. That Roger Williams. What did they do to him? Well, revered man, but he's not thinking like us. He's not as religious as us. I got to look into this guy a little more. But what did he do to piss them off so much that they didn't even want to have him live in their town? And yet when he went over to the Indians, the Sacakas, and wanted to live there, he treated them like a king. Said, and I will give you all this land, and I will be your friend because you want to be my friend. And that's all it took. That's all it took for him to be his friend, is him to come over there and say, I want to be, I'm laying down myself here at your mercy. Here I am. Have mercy on me. Everybody else kicked me out. Can I come be here? Can you let me have some land? And they were like, wow, you're going to talk to us? You're going to be friends with us? You're all right. You know what I'm saying? Here, you can broker a peace treaty deal, with the English for us. So what did he do that was so good to the Indians? Did he learn how to speak their language? Did he just, come and talk to them, trade with them or something? What was it that he did?
They saw him as an asset.
Could be. And
I mean, he because he was an outcast, they were like, well, so what are they doing over there? And what are what are you white men like?
Yeah.
And what are your hobbies? And just so the red man was learning from the white guy just about customs and so forth, which is, that's an insight as to who they were, because they didn't know who they were back then. They were just getting to know each other, as it were.
Yeah.
So, but yeah.
Lucky's got it. Roger Williams, he was an advocate for religious freedom, separation of church and state, and fair dealings with the Native Americans. Well, can't have that now, can we?
Nope, can't have that.
Fair dealings with the Native Americans? Oh my goodness. You could start a trend there and advocate for, I got to put that up again, and advocate for religious freedom to believe in whatever you want. I don't even know what to say about that. Separation of church and state? Come on, don't be ridiculous. No wonder why he got thrown out.
Isn't that what's in the Constitution?
I know, I said it sarcastically.
I know, and I was just following up.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, but that's the whole point. What all that stuff we have today is what he started out saying. Let's just trade fair. Let's have religious freedom. Let's have church separation of church and state, because back in the day everything was, the church and the state were hand in hand, and it's crazy. You didn't have religious freedom. Remember the Salem witch trials? Oh my God, you might be a witch. I seen you look funny at somebody, and their dog died. We got to burn you at the stake. you know what I mean?
Yep.
Oh God.
And oh my God, you made us sad about some plants.
Yeah, for gosh sake.
You're a witch.
Yes, exactly. Well, anyway, that's my story for tonight, people. If you want to learn more about the Pequot War, just go out, find yourself a good book. There's a lot of stuff on the internet about the Pequots, the Pequot War. They were fighting. They were fighting over in a swamp, getting killed left and right. They had nice lands, and that's what the white people wanted. That's what the English wanted, was that the good lands that they had already settled on, grew their crops, built their forts, good hunting land, and said, we're taking it. We're taking the river that you live on, the Mystic River. I got to look up more about the Mystic River. That sounds like quite a place to go. Has anybody been to the Mystic River? I'd like to have pictures of that. Anyway, okay, time for story time, right on time here. Yes, it is. Pretty soon it'll be pilgrim time. We'll be talking about Thanksgiving stuff soon enough. Don't you worry.
Pilgrim time. Yep.
Pilgrim time. We'll find out. Last year we discussed. Oh man, I did a lot of stuff on the pilgrims. Wasn't all fun stuff as you can imagine it was, people. The pilgrims were sitting around a table eating, you know, fine foods and just living it up. They were
Drinking fancy wines.
Yeah, exactly. They were having a blast. See, look at the pictures we're showing. Remember how it's telling you that you really have to do some research because this is probably not what was really going on. These people were probably starving to death. They barely had any food. The Indians weren't sitting around with their big headdresses on saying, "Come on, let's eat." You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And look at here. These guys are all sitting at a table, and these guys over here are getting nothing. Oh, yeah. We'll have to find out the true story. If anybody has anything to say about this, you want to come on the show and give your 2 cents worth or send me an email about it, well, let me know. Last year I had Lucky and Courtney on to talk about it, and it was good. Might ask you guys to come back on. So there you go. Okay, here we go. The bird medicine.
This is again another Seneca story. And we don't have anything else on this. It's just the bird medicine.
Yep.
We ready there, boss man?
Anytime you're up.
Okie dokie. The bird medicine. A Seneca named Bloody Hand had a great love for the birds of the air that ate flesh, and for the animals of the earth that ate flesh. When he killed a deer, he cut the flesh into pieces and called birds to eat it, or he gave it to the wolves. Sometimes he carried home a small piece, but usually he gave all the pieces to the birds and the beasts. The Senecas went on the warpath, and this man went with them. He was killed and scalped. The birds of the air saw him, and they held a council. One said, "We can bring him to life if we can get his scalp. The man who killed him has hung up the scalp by the door of his house. We will send for it." They sent Hawk. Hawk's bill was sharp and strong. He twisted the scalp from the place where it was tied and carried it to the birds. One of the birds said, "Now we will make medicine, and to find out how strong it is, we will try to bring that tree to life that is lying over there on the ground." In this bird medicine was a bit of the flesh of each of the birds. When making the medicine, the birds caused a corn stalk to come up out of the ground. They broke the stalk, and in it was blood. They put some of the blood in their medicine, healed the stalk, and it disappeared. They caused a squash vine to come out of the ground, and right away there were squashes on the vine. They used some of the seeds for their medicine, and the vine disappeared. When the medicine was ready, part of the birds sat on one side of the tree and part on the other side, and they sang their medicine song and sprinkled medicine on the tree and the ground. Above the clouds is a great bird called Scattercae. In the midst, he is chief of all the birds. They sent the headman of the ravens to tell him what they were doing. This is why ravens always sing caw, caw when flying. The eagle is the chief under the great bird above. When the birds saw that the tree was getting green and coming to life, the leaders said, "This is enough. We know how our medicine will act. Now we must appoint someone to carry it to our friend's body." They chose Chickadee. Chickadee drank the medicine and then went into the man's mouth and down into his stomach, threw the medicine out and came back. The other birds rubbed the man's body with medicine, sat around him and sang. They sang 2 days and 2 nights, then found that the body was growing warm. All at once, the man who had been dead felt as though he had been wakened from a sleep. He heard singing and he listened. He understood the words of the song. He moved a little. The birds drew back but kept singing. The chief of the birds said to the man, "We have brought you to life. Now we will give you some of our medicine. If any of your people are wounded by an arrow or bruised by a fall, use the medicine right away. They will be well. When you use it, burn tobacco and think of us. When you think of us and come together and burn tobacco, you will renew and strengthen the medicine. When the tobacco is burning, call out. Let all the beasts and birds on the earth smell this tobacco." Bloody Hand went home, selected a few men, and gave to each one of them a little of the bird medicine, taught them how to use it and how to sing the songs. He said, "You must never laugh at these songs. If you laugh at them, bad luck will come to you. No one may sing the songs unless he has the medicine. The songs would be poison for him." Solomon Bale, an old Indian on the Cattaraugus Reservation, had in 1883 about a tablespoon of this bird medicine in the form of dust. When using it, he put a particle at the east side of a cup, another particle on the west side, and another on the side toward the sick man's lips, then poured water into the cup. If all the dust remained on top of the water, the sick man would live. If it sank to the bottom, he would die. If it mixed with the water and dissolved, he would recover. If it dissolved, the patient drank the liquid. The medicine is so powerful that the sick man, after drinking it, can eat only pure white food, such as white beans and white corn. The odor of meat cooking is bad for him. When a man is sick, the family hang a blanket in front of him so that they will have time to find where a collar has been. For if he has stopped on the way to look at a dead person, the sick man will die at once. The beginning of the bird song is, "Now this is the medicine to take. Now this is the medicine to take." When the medicine is swallowed, the song says, "Now it begins to work. Now it begins to work all over his body." The man who gives the medicine sings and dances, saying, they, the spirits, have come and cured the sick man, and I let them go with thanks. I have got to the field, I have got to the mountain, I have got to the falls, I have got beyond the clouds. Now we are together where the tobacco is. When a sick man wants to take the bird medicine, he must give a handful of Indian tobacco to the man who has it. That man will put a bit of the tobacco in the fire and say to the medicine as he holds it in his hand, smell of the tobacco, for I am going to use you. Then taking a cup, he goes to running water, gives some of the water to the stream, pronounces the sick man's name, and dipping the cup downstream, takes what water it gets. This water he uses to try the medicine in. The end.
Wow, that was pretty good. Hey, I noticed something that when they do these, uh, stories, nothing's really complicated. It ain't like, oh, you gotta have this much this and this much that. It's like there's some medicine, and the biggest thing you got to do is make sure that you sing the songs and you give a little bit. And there's always about giving back. Do you notice that? Like, oh, you can take 2 puffs of tobacco, but you have to sprinkle some outside your teepee or something. You know what I mean?
Yep.
And if you like the tobacco, you have to yell out, "This tobacco's good! Thank you, animals, for giving it to me. Thank you." You know what I mean?
Yep.
And it's kind of like that. Not nothing complicated. It seems like we over today in this era we overthink things. You know what I mean? We
Yeah.
over,
And there are times when we don't do enough, and there are times when we do too much.
yeah. Well,
You know,
that's true.
oh, they keep going on when you should have just hushed up, hours ago. Or somebody says, well, they're going to read a line or two and that's that, and they walk away. When a little bit more could be said. But anyway, so it goes both ways.
Yeah, yeah, this is true, but I think things today are a little more complicated. And, like medicines.
Yep.
You can't make a medicine at home, because it's too complicated. How do you make I don't know, some of these things? Heck, most people don't even know penicillin in the beginning was moldy bread. Today, penicillin, you got to get it from a doctor, and nobody knows how it's made. You know what I mean? It's, it's too complicated to make at home. Is that
Or
not?
which kind of penicillin it is.
Well, yeah, exactly.
Those are
I
4 or
wouldn't
5
know.
different kinds of penicillin.
That,
Streptomycin, blah, 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 and yeah, okay.
yeah, exactly. All these different kinds of medicines, and we have no clue. So we have to go to we're kind of forced into going to the doctor so he can give us the right medicines for what we got. And there's none of this, like this guy said. He takes a little piece here, and then you drink the water, and he knows by the if it floats or sinks, if the guy's going to live or die. See how easy that is? And he's like, okay, well, and I just mix it up and I give it to him, and the man, he gets better, but then he can only eat white corn or white beans or something crazy like that, which I don't know what that means, but you know, to me, it would say that you have to eat light food. You can't, which is kind of a thing when you're sick. You don't go ahead and eat a big chunk of meat after you're sick. You eat light food, right? Okay, are you ready for the second one?
Yeah.
Okay. Sorry if I'm slow here. I was yapping.
This next story is Hagawayne and his 10 sons. The characters in this story is Wild Geese, Flint, Blue Snake, Whirlwind, Spider, Meteor, Snake, Flea, Turtle, Eagle, and Black Snake. So there was 3 different types of snakes in this particular story. And I would try to go and pronounce some of these names, but it would be a waste of time and wouldn't make sense anyway. So I'm going to go on with the story. Hagawayne and his 10 sons. At Hittagatastendi lived a man of great power named Hagawayne. He belonged to the eagle family. One day this man started off to hunt. Taking his canoe, he sailed across the lake in front of his house and leaving the canoe, traveled for 5 days toward the west. Then he collected wood and made a camp. The first day he hunted, he killed 5 bears and 6 deer, brought them to camp, and said to himself, I have had a bad luck today. The second day he killed 10 bears and 12 deer and brought them to camp. That night he skinned and roasted the 15 bears and 18 deer and finished the work before daylight. The next day he went for more game. He killed 24 deer and 20 bears, brought them to camp, skinned and roasted them, finishing exactly at midnight. Then he said to himself, I have enough now. Putting the meat into one pile, he tied it up with bark strings and shook it, saying, I want you to be small. It shrank into a little package that he hung to his belt. In the same way, he made the skins into a small package that he hung to his belt. Then he set out for home. When Hagawayne came to the lake, he looked everywhere for his canoe, but he couldn't find it. He saw a man coming toward him. When they met, the man asked, What have you lost? I have lost my canoe, answered Hagawayne. The man who lives on that island over there was here yesterday. He took your canoe. Who is the man? He is one of the turtle family. How can I get my canoe? Give me what meat you have, and I will get it for you. What am I to eat if I do that? Well, I will do better. I will bring the canoe if you will take your meat home, keep half, and put the other half outside your house for me. Very well, said Hagawayne. The man himself had taken the canoe to the island, and now he brought it back. That man on the island, said he, is an ugly fellow. He nearly killed me. When Hagawayne got home, he drew the canoe to a place of safety among the rocks. Then he took the packages of meat from his belt, untied, and threw them down. That minute they regained their natural size. He piled the meat up inside of his house and tanned the skins, but he didn't pay Handazoyas for bringing back the canoe. After a time, a woman of the wild goose family came to Hagawain's house, bringing a basket of bread. She said, "My mother sent me to ask you to take me for a wife." The man hung his head a while, thinking. At last he said to himself, "I suppose nothing bad will come of this." Then he looked at the girl and said, "I am willing." The girl was glad. She placed the marriage bread before him. He ate some of it and said, "I am thankful. I have not tasted bread for many years." The two lived happily. Each year for 10 years, a son was born to them. Then one morning, when Hagawain was sitting on a rock outside the house, he said to himself, "I am tired of staying here. I am going away." He sat in his canoe and rowed across the lake. After a time, his wife missed him. She looked everywhere but could get no trace of him. When the eldest boy was almost a young man, he said to his mother, "I am going to search for my father till I find out where he is." "You will get lost on the way," said his mother. "Oh, no, I will not," replied he. After a time, the mother gave her consent, and the boy set out, traveling always toward the north. While crossing a rocky place, he came upon a trail. "These footprints look like my father's," thought he, and he followed them. Soon he came to a cross trail. "I wonder where this comes from and where it goes," thought he. When I come back, I will find out." Not far from the cross trail, the boy saw a house, and as the trail he was following entered it, he went in and, looking around, saw one old man in the southeast corner, another in the southwest, a third in the northwest, and a fourth in the northeast corner, and each one was smoking. The first old man raised his head, looked at the boy, and asked, "Well, my grandson, what are you doing here? If you want to see your father, come to me. I will show him to you." The boy went to him. The old man seized him by the hair, bent his head over a bark bowl, and cut it off. "I am glad of the young man," said he. "It must be worth eating. It is just the right age," and he began to cut up the body. At home, they waited for long tidings from the eldest brother. When none came, the second son said, "I must go and find my brother." "Oh, my son," said the mother, "do not go. Some misfortune has befallen your brother." "I must go," answered the boy. "I cannot help going. I want to find my father and my brother." And he made ready for the journey. He put on a shirt, leggings, and moccasins of meteor skin, and took bow and arrows. The mother cried, but she couldn't prevent his going. He went north as his brother had done, followed the same trail till he came to the cross trail, and went into the house where the four old men were sitting. The old man in the northwest corner called out, "My grandson, do you want to see your father? Come here." The boy went, looking into a bowl half full of water, saw the face of his father and the face of his brother. Then the old man seized him by the hair and cut off his head. 9 of the brothers went, one after another, and all were killed by the 4 old men in the house near the cross trail. Then Yellow Flint, the 10th and youngest son, though he was still small and young, said to his mother, "I must follow my brothers." "Oh, my son," said the mother, "you cannot go. There are 4 old men living near the trail. They are called Hadeas. They have great power. But I must go. I want to find my father, and my brothers. You will never see them again. They are dead." "Can't I kill those old men?" "Maybe you can if I give you my power." "Give it to me. I must kill them." "I will go and bring it," said the mother. She went west to a rough and rocky place and came back with a slate rock mannequin about half the length of her little figure. "Here," said she, "put this mannequin between your belt and your body, and you can do what you like. You can change yourself to whatever form you please." The boy put the mannequin between his belt and his body, took a bow made of hickory and arrows of red willow pointed with wasp stings, and went toward the north, as his brothers had. He found a fresh trail and thought, "Maybe this is my father's trail." After a while, he came to the cross trail, running from east to west. He stood still and thought, "Where does this trail come from, and where does it go? I will find out." He went toward the east till it came to a wide opening and saw a cloud of dust moving toward him. "I must hurry back," said he to himself, "or something may happen to me." When he turned, the great cloud approached quickly. Soon it touched him, and he grew so weak that he fell to the ground. Looking up, he saw a long-legged person rushing on. He sprang to his feet, climbed a tree, and shot up a wasp sting-pointed arrow. The arrow hit the man in the cloud and killed him. The long-legged stranger was Jay Spider. The boy went east again. Another cloud of dust rushed toward him, but he turned aside. After the cloud passed, he ran on till he came to the place where the trails crossed, and going northward from there, came to the house where the 4 old men sat smoking. After standing outside for a while, he found a crack and, looking in, saw the brothers. "I wonder if those are the men that my brother told me about," thought he. "I will kill them if I can. If I can't, I will burn down their house." He took the mannequin from his belt and placed it on his hand. He stood it up and said to him, "I am going to ask you a question. I want to kill those old men. How am I to do it?" The mannequin said, "You must climb that high rock over there and call out, 'I, Othogowida, am on this high rock.' You will find sharp flint stones up there. Take a handful of them and throwing them toward the house, say, 'I want it to be hot.' The boy put the mannequin in his belt and listened to the conversation of the old men. One said, I think Othawagada is around here. Oh, replied the man in the southeast corner, you said that all the family were dead. I think a little boy is left, said the old man in the southwest corner. I think they are all dead except the old woman, said the man in the northeast corner. Well, said the old man in the northwest corner, it seems to me that one is lurking around here somewhere. If you think so, hunt for him, said the old man in the southwest. Athagodawida sprang onto the house and sat with his feet in the smoke hole. The old man looked all around but could find no one. The boy drew his bow and shot through the smoke hole, shot each one of the brothers. The arrows went deep into their bodies, but the men were not hurt. They didn't know that they had been hit. The boy sprang from the house and landed far away. Then he climbed the rock and called out, I, Othagowida, am on this high rock. He heard one of the brothers say, my back is sore. I feel as though my bones were broken. The boy picked up a handful of sharp flint stones and threw them at the house, saying, I want you to be red hot and burn up those old men and their house. The flints went straight to the house. A few pieces went beyond. Those that struck the house set it on fire. Those that fell beyond burned the forest. Everything was blazing in and around the place. Then the boy threw a second handful of flint, saying, I want you to cut off the heads of those old men. The flint struck each man's neck in such a way that his head dropped off. The boy stood on the rock and watched the fire till only coals remained. All at once there was an explosion and whirlwind. A great head flew towards him, knocked him off the rock, and rising high in the air went straight west. The boy sprang to his feet and looking up saw a whirlwind going higher and higher. Soon he heard a crash as whirlwind struck the blue. Then the head came down again. When it reached the ground, Othagowida ran forward quickly and crushed it with a white flint stone. The boy searched through the coals with a pointed stick. At the northwest corner of the coals of the house, he came upon a trail running towards the northwest, and he followed it till he came to an opening. A cloud of dust rushed toward him. He ran into the forest and waited. The cloud stopped at the edge of the forest, and from it came an enormous spider. Oh, said the spider, I thought somebody was on the trail. My master is fooling me. I thought he had found another one of the goose family. Spider turned back, running as fast as he could. The boy followed till Spider reached a house which was sunken in the ground. The boy listened outside, and soon he heard someone crying. He thought, that sounds like my father's voice. He must be in there. He took out the mannequin, placed it on his hand. It came to life, stood up, and the boy asked, how am I to kill the spider that lives in this house. Go to a tree just west of here, said the mannequin. Climb to the top of it and call out, I am Othakoida, and I am more powerful than anything under the blue. I can kill any kind of game on earth. When you have spoken these words, cut a limb from the tree, throw it towards the house, and tell it to split open the spider's heart. The heart is in the ground under the house. When Spider is dead, rescue your father and burn the house. The boy did as the mannequin said. He cut off a limb of the tree, spat on it, and straightway it was alive, and he threw it towards the house, saying, Split Spider's heart in two. The limb went under the house to where the heart was hidden. That instant, Spider stretched out and died. The boy slipped down from the tree and went to the house. Spider lay dead in the middle of the room. Under the couch lay a man who seemed to be almost dead. Orthogoida raised the couch and found his father. The flesh was gone from his legs and arms, and he was barely alive. My father, said the boy, you must go home. My son, said Haggawain, you will die if you stay here. There is no danger now, answered the boy. Then he put the mannequin on his hand and asked, What shall I do with my father? The mannequin answered, Rub saliva over him, and flesh will come out on his bones. The boy did this, and his father was strong and well as ever. Now, said he, I am Hodiosko, the trickster. I have heard old people say that when he dies, he comes to life again. We will go home. You can go, said Othagoida, but I must find my brothers. When Haggawain reached home, his wife looked at him and cried, Oh, my dear son, I wish you were here. I have seen something strange. Why do you talk in that way? Asked Haggawain. Why do you cry? Are you sorry that I have come? You are not alive. Yes, I am. No, you are not. And thinking he was a ghost, she drove him onto the rocks, and there he had to stay. After his father had gone, the boy burned the spider's house. When only coals were left, something shot up and flew westward. It alighted on the plain and became a sandpiper. This is the way I do. This is why I say that I can kill anybody, cried the boy. And going around the edge of the opening on the eastern side, he found a broad trail and followed it till he came to a cross trail. He stood at the four corners of the two trails, one going north and south, the other east and west. Put the mannequin on his hand and said, I want you to tell me what I am to do. At the foot of that tree over there, you will find a bark bowl. Beyond the tree is a medicine spring. On the other side of the spring, a plant is growing. Put the plant in the bowl and fill the bowl with water from the spring. Here, where the trail crosses, dig a hole and put the bowl into it. with the plant standing in the water. Then stay close by and see what will happen. The boy put the mannequin away and went to the pine tree that grew in the northwest between the northern and western trails. He found a spring and farther on a plant with bright red blossoms. He did as the mannequin had told him to, then put the bowl in the ground at the crossing of the trails and standing aside, watched and listened. Soon he heard a noise in the forest like a heavy wind coming from the north. Nearer and nearer it came with a terrible cloud of dust, and nothing could be seen till the cloud stopped at the crossing. Then, in the middle of it, the boy saw the skeleton of Blue Lizard. The skeleton walked up to the plant and ate one of the red blossoms. Though the skeleton had no place to hide the blossom, it vanished. The boy wondered greatly. It is nothing but bones, thought he. Where does food go? The skeleton grew sick. It jumped around till arms, legs, head, and ribs fell apart. Othogawida laughed, but just then he heard the noise of a heavy wind and saw it coming from the south with a great cloud of dust. The cloud stopped at the crossing, and the boy saw the skeleton of Snake. It went to the bowl and ate a blossom. That minute it began to shake, and soon it fell to pieces, became a pile of bones. Then a terrible wind came from the east and stopped at the crossing. In the middle of the cloud of dust was the skeleton of Nagawahi, the ancient of bears. It ate a blossom and then began to tremble and to disjoint. Soon it was only a pile of bones. From the west came the skeleton of the ancient winged snakes. When it had turned to bones, the boy put the mannequin on his hand and asked, "Is it finished?" "It is," said the mannequin. "All of the trails are clear. If you go to the end of the southern trail, you will find 3 of your brothers." When the boy came to the end of the southern trail, he couldn't see anything, but after looking around a while, he found a rock with an opening in it. He went to the opening and down into the ground. It was dark there, and he thought, maybe there are skeletons here, but I must go on. At last he came to a place where there was no fire, but a plenty of light, and just beyond he found 3 of his brothers. The eldest called out, "Oh, my brother, you must hurry away. The skeleton will come soon." "I will kill it," said the boy. "My brother, if you stay here, you will not live." "I have come to take you away," said Othagawida. "We cannot walk," answered the 3. "The skeleton has eaten our flesh." The boy looked at his brothers and saw that their legs and arms were simply bones. He rubbed the bones with saliva, and they were covered with flesh. "You must go home," said Othagawida. "I am going for my other brothers." The 3 went home. When their mother saw them, she cried out, and thinking them ghosts, seized a club and drove them away. They found their father and sat on the rock with him. The boy went back to the crossing and followed the eastern trail till he came to the end of it. At first he didn't see anything, and he wondered where the ancient of bears had come from. Then he found an opening in the ground and went down into it. There must be other skeletons here, he thought, but I must go on. Soon he came to a place where there was a bright light from a rotten wood, which was packed up there, and farther on he found 3 of his brothers. All of their flesh had been eaten, and they were too weak to move. He brought flesh to their bones and sent them home. The mother drove them away as she had their father and brothers. Athagawida went back to the crossing and followed the northern trail till he came to a small opening. While he was looking around, a whirlwind came upon him, and he ran to the shelter of a maple tree that stood nearby. Soon he heard a heavy blow on the opposite side of the tree. He looked and saw an owie, a winged snake, lying dead at the foot of the tree. Coming in the whirlwind, it had struck the tree and had been killed. The boy went to the edge of the opening, but right away he heard a second whirlwind coming. I shall die this time, thought he, for he saw that a great number of winged snakes were in the whirlwind. He hid behind the tree and the whirlwind rushed by. Then he ran to the other side of the opening. The boy put the mannequin on his hand. It stood up, alive, and he asked, "What can I do with the snakes that are chasing me?" "You must make a fire across the trail." He gathered boughs and sticks, made a large, long pile, set fire to the west end of it, and said to the wind, "My grandfather, blow gently on the west end of this pile." His grandfather heard him, and soon there was a mighty fire. When it was burning fiercely, the boy said, "Grandfather, let the breeze die down." Straightway it stopped blowing. When the whirlwind of snakes came again, the snakes were swept into the fire, and every one of them perished. Free of snakes, the boy hurried along the northern trail till he saw a whirlwind going toward the northeast. Then he took out the mannequin and asked, "Which way must I go?" "North," answered the mannequin. As the boy traveled along, he saw a trail going toward the northwest, but he went straight ahead. When he came to the end of the trail, he found an opening in the ground near a birch tree. He went into the opening and soon came to a place where an old man sat smoking. "What can that old man be doing?" thought he. The old man straightened up and said, "I am weak this morning. It seems to me that somebody is around here." He raised his head and looked around as he looked, his eyes seemed to project from his head. He saw Othagawida and said, "My nephew, I am glad that you have come. I will find out what luck you have." He took a rattle made of dagawanenyet and shook it, saying, "Sawa, Sawa." "Stop," said the boy. "I will try your luck first." "No, my nephew, I will try first," said the old man, whose name was Digwyganostus Flea. They disputed till they came to blows. The old man threw down his rattle and struck at the boy, and his own arm fell off. He struck with his other hand, and that arm fell off. Then it kicked at him with one leg, and that fell off. With the other, and that dropped off. The old man was now only head and body. The arms and legs tried to get back to their places on the body, but the boy pushed them away and shot an arrow through the old man. The arrow took root and became a small tree. The flea tried to bite the boy, but as he made the attempt, his head flew off. The boy pounded the body, jumped and danced around it, and said, "Oh, my uncle is in pieces now." In the old man's house, he found the last three of his brothers, weak and wretched as the others had been. He cured them and sent them home. The mother drove them from the house, and they sat down on the rock with their father and brothers. After his brothers had gone, Othogowida took out the mannequin and asked, "Is there anything on the northeast trail?" "You will rescue people if you go there," answered the mannequin. "Is there anything bad on the northwest trail?" "There is." At the end of the northwest trail, the boy found a house without a door. "How can I get into this house?" thought he. Looking through a crack, he saw an old woman of the blue snake people. She was singing, and the song said, "Othogowida is coming. Othogowida is coming." "She knows that I am here," thought the boy. Presently she said, "I will go out and play a little while." The boy didn't see how the woman got out of the house, but all at once he saw her going along the trail that ran toward the west. He followed her. She went into a small lake and down deep in the water. Then he saw a tail come to the surface and began to move around in a circle. On the tail were two little things like fins. They rubbed against each other and made beautiful music. In the water, the old woman was a fish. After a while, she came partly out of the water, but seeing the boy, she drew back and said, "My grandson, don't kill me. I have never harmed any of your people. I will spare you if you will give me something that will be useful to me. I will give you a fin. Keep it to find your luck with it." "How can I use it?" "When you lie down, put it under your head. You will have a dream, and the dream will tell you what you want to know." The boy went home with the old woman, and looking around saw an opening in the ground, and in it many people almost dead. He got them out, rubbed them with saliva, healed them, and sent each man to his own home. When all had gone, he asked the old woman why she had captured these people and shut them up. "I did not shut them up," said the woman. "My husband is a man-eater. He brought them here. He lives on another trail. His name is Diwanoostos, the Weeper, Flea." "Was that man your husband? I have killed him." "I am glad," said the woman. "Your people are safe now, for you have destroyed their greatest enemy." Othogawida traveled on the northeast trail till he came to a house where he heard singing. The song said, "The youngest son of Hongok, Goose Woman, is going everywhere in the world. We wish he would come to us." The song stopped, and the woman said, "I feel badly. Let us go and throw rocks." They went to a place where there were white flint rocks as large as a house. The woman picked up one of the rocks and threw it into the air. It came down on her head, but it didn't hurt her. Then she threw it to the man, who caught it and threw it back. When tired of playing, they went to the house. The man said, "I feel as though someone were here." Looking around, he saw the boy and he asked, "My grandson, what are you doing here?" "I have come to visit you." "My grandson," said the woman, "I am glad you have come. We have been waiting for you. You have killed the man-eater and the skeletons. Now we want you to free the men who are in an opening under our house." The boy found many men in the opening, which the man-eater had forced this man and woman to guard. He liberated them and sent each man to his own home. "Now," said Othogawida, "let all the trails disappear. Trails must not be made across the world to deceive people." The trails disappeared. Then the boy went home. When he saw his father and 9 brothers sitting on a large flat rock, he asked, "Why don't you go into the house?" "Your mother wouldn't let us stay in the house. She drove us out," answered Hagawain. The boy went into the house and asked, "Mother, are you sorry that I found my father and my brothers? Did you find them and send them home?" "I did." The woman was glad then. She welcomed her husband and sons. They came in and all were happy. The end.
Ooh, that was a long one, but a good one. I like it. A lot of
Complicated.
yeah, it got complicated. And again, off with the heads, off with the heads. All I kept thinking was how they go every time, every story. Chop that head off. Eat them bodies. Chop the arms off. Always something like that.
Yeah, and for some reason, there are a lot of other cultures too, like the Chinese and the Japanese, and just other cultures that chopping their head off. The French back in the day, the guillotine,
Yeah.
or some would call it the guillotine.
Always, yeah, it's always
Off
got to
with
do.
their heads. I mean, even in the nursery rhyme, the
Alice in
the Queen
Wonderland.
of
Off with
Hearts,
her head. Off with her head.
off
Yeah.
with their head.
Mm-hmm. How crazy. But hey, that's the way it always seems to go. Off with their
And
heads,
even
and then
of zombies today, man, off with their heads.
mm-hmm, off with their heads. Always off with their heads. Well, I guess it's something with our culture. We can ponder it and think about it, but I suppose the head is where all the thinking is done. All the you can't do much with the body if the head is detached, right?
Yeah. And
So
I think it goes way back to their It's sort of like Dracula.
Oh,
I
yeah.
mean, it goes further back than that, but the only way to kill it is to cut its head off. That's the only way to make sure it's dead is to cut its head off. And I mean, I think that there was a lot of that going on because of evil spirits that went back thousands of years. You got to cut the head off, to make sure it's dead. So
Yep. Huh.
probably zombies have been around for a long time.
Long time. Long time. You got a card for us tonight?
Yep, and it's a short one. Mountain lion.
Ooh, we haven't had mountain lion in a while.
No, can't remember when. And it's number 17 if you're keeping up. And it's leadership. Mountain lion can be a very difficult power totem for you to have because it places you in a position to be a target for the problems of others. You could be blamed for things going wrong or for always taking charge when others cannot. You could become the perfect justification for the insecurities of others. In other words, it's your fault I didn't get that promotion. It's your fault that the kids came home late from school. It's your fault, whatever. Mountain lion medicine involves lessons on the use of power in leadership. It is the ability to lead without insisting others follow. In other words, you better do what I say, where you don't know. You can lead others by not doing that. The use and abuse of power in a position of influence are the part of this great cat's medicine. By observing the graceful pounce of mountain lion, you will learn how to balance power, intention, and physical strength, and grace. This relates in human terms to the balance of body, mind, and spirit. The giant feline never wastes anything. It only kills what it needs for survival. The female lion is the hunter who graces her table in a style akin to mother energy. If mountain lion has come up in your dreams, it is a time to stand on your convictions. It is a time to stand on your convictions and lead yourself where your heart takes you. Others may choose to follow, and the lessons will multiply. If you pulled the card of mountain lion, you may be asked to review the purpose behind your personal beliefs and may be asked to review you may need to discover whether or not your plans include pride of clubs, wanting to be like you, or to share in your dreams. If you are already a leader, the question may be whether or not the time has come to push the cubs out of the cave. If you are aligned with cat medicine, you are considered to be king of the mountain and never allowed to be human or vulnerable. The pitfalls are many, but the rewards are great. In assuming the place of power that mountain lion affords, you must constantly be aware of keeping peace. However, you can never make everyone happy unless you lie to yourself or to others. So the best thing to do is do the best you can. Therefore, the first responsibility of leadership is to tell the truth to yourself and to others. Know it and live it, and your example will filter down to the tiniest cub in the pride. Responsibility is no more than the ability to respond to any situation. Panic is not part of this sacred medicine. There you go. That's a good message.
It is. It
You
sure
know,
is.
with the lead without having to, without making insisting that others follow you. That's a really just, you know,
Hmm. Oh yeah, yeah. Just do your thing. I know I always had that thing. I learned that pretty young in life, and I was even talking to a guy today. It said, oh, what if ever, if we do this, what is everybody going to think? And I said, the only ones whose opinion matters is your own. I mean, you're never going to make everybody happy. The only one you can make happy is yourself.
yep.
So just do, be a leader, do what you want. And, if you have to change things a little bit later on, that's fine. But, don't succumb to everybody's opinion, because then you're not living your own life, your own best life, I should say. Right?
Right. And do the best you can when you're doing it. You
Yeah.
know, I mean, because if you do a half-assed job, then everything's going to be half-assed in your life. Try to do the best you can.
Yes. As it should be. Just do the best that you can. That's all anybody should expect out of you. And, because others can sometimes do better than, one can do better than another, and that should always be expected. But nobody can do, what you can do, because we're all special. You know what I'm saying?
Yep.
There you go. Mark the arc spark as it, be yourself. Know thyself. Well said. All right, everybody. Thank you all for coming. Mark the Arc Spark, Richard, and Michelle Can-Am Free, Queen Peachy King, Scotty Boy, Michelle Can-Am Free, Chloe. I'm falling. I'll put out. Lucky Stone. His ancestors were pilgrims. They were fine, upstanding people. All right. Let's see who else is here tonight. Amber Dawn. Amber Dawn. Thank you for being here tonight, everyone. Elderberry. Travis. Let's see. And even Susie Q. Thank you, everyone, for coming tonight and being part of the show. Nicholas Burnett. He says, I've been listening. Well, that's all right, because these stories are good. I hope you, even if you didn't get part of the history, you got some good stories. And either way, you win, right? Isn't that how it goes? Yep. Well, with all of that, remember Thanksgiving is coming up, and we all should be thankful for something. So, lead and be an example, and be thankful for the people and the lives you have around as our uh, our summer turns to fall, which turns to winter. And be thankful for everything you have, everyone in your life. And with that, go out, give them a lending hand here and there, possibly wherever you can. And hey, David, you got a show tonight? You do a show tonight?
Yeah, for a bit. Yep.
All right, good deal. So catch the show. David's channel's in the link below. And with that, remember the most important thing: go out and be the frequency you want to receive, because that's all that matters.